Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Common Sense Gospel. I'm Danny Simmons,
And I'm Kurt Norbert.
and we are looking at the God who is. This is season 10. Today, we have found our way to John chapter 11. We're looking at the 7 I ams in the Gospel of John. John chapter 11, Jesus will say to Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. It is a powerful statement from Jesus, and we will spend our time today thinking about that. What we're going to do is we're going to pick up as John 11 begins, because this is where it all starts for us. Moving into that conversation, John 11 and verse 1 says, Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. So as we get the introduction to this, Kurt, we see that Lazarus is kind of set before us, a man of Bethany. He is the brother of Mary and Martha. We know these sisters very well. It's interesting, too, John says this is the Mary who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil. John doesn't tell us about that until John 12. So it's interesting. He knows that we already know about it. And so he's just telling us this is the same Mary. You're familiar with her. They send message now to Jesus, and this is where this really starts to take hold of our heart. They sent a message to Jesus, and they say, Behold, he whom you love is sick. Now, when you send a message to someone saying, so-and-so here is sick, someone you love is sick, they're saying, come to us. Mm. And so they've sent this message to him. And then verse 4 is powerful and interesting as you kind of work through these verses. Jesus says this sickness is not unto death. And yet you and I know, and our listeners know, that Lazarus is going to die from this sickness. But Jesus is making a much greater point. This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. So then John says, look, he loves Mary and Martha. He is not trying to hurt them intentionally. He's just not coming yet.
Yeah. There's a purpose behind this whole thing that Jesus is planning on doing. And I'm struck by the jarring step or the surprising step from between verses 5 and 6. Like you pointed out, John says Jesus loved Martha and Mary and Lazarus, and that's evident. Mm-hmm. And so we would think, oh, he loves them. He's going to head right down there. That's what we do. We get a message, so-and-so's really sick at the hospital, and we don't think they're going to last long. Well, you drop everything and you head over there.
Yeah.
But here it says Jesus waited 2 more days.
Yeah.
Well, is that showing love? Well, yes. What gets me about this is John, as we've mentioned, has stated his purpose in writing his gospel. That's why it's different from the other 3. They've already covered the turf of the life of Jesus. And so John's not going to go over that. His point is to show us the evidence to support, the proposition Jesus has laid out throughout his ministry. He is the Son of God.
Exactly.
John 20, these are written so you may believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. So this is the last miracle that John records. It's interesting. He records his first one and his last one, but not a lot in between. He records fewer miracles than any of the other Gospels. But the ones he does record are to support that thesis of his book, to show that Jesus is the Son of God.
That's right.
And this is the climactic miracle that demonstrates that, because now we're just going to see how sovereign and how powerful the lordship of Jesus Christ is in resurrecting Lazarus from the dead.
Yeah, and this is such a good point about John and what his purpose is, that he's writing all of these things so that you may believe. What we're reading together today and what we're studying is so that we would come to terms with who he truly is and believe with our heart that he is all that he claims to be. And the demonstration here set before us, and the timeline and the things that he says, all of it brings us to a greater belief in him. And I think the relationship that he had with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, as you said, it says clearly, John says he loved them, all of them. But it's not just that, he loved them. Every time he comes into Bethany, he stays with them. They are gracious hosts to him, and he's not alone, is he? Every time he shows up, there's 12 other men with him. They love Jesus. They open their home. It also shows us that there's some means about this family. They've got some wealth about them. Yeah. This is the town of Mary, the home of Martha. Lazarus is there, and when Jesus is there with his apostles and whoever else has come, they just receive these people and keep them at their home and feed them. We see Martha and Mary both serving and laboring to feed all who have come to hear the gospel preached. So they're supporting his whole mission. They're a stopping point for him to relax and to catch his breath and whatever else he needs on human terms. The relationship is very deep and it is very real. And so we've just been told that Jesus stayed in the place where he was for 2 more days. Then verse 7 says, "Then after this, he said to the disciples, 'Let us go to Judea again.'" Now there's a problem with that. The disciples bring it up immediately. The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, lately the Jews sought to stone you, and are you going there again?" They say, "You can't go back. You're going to get killed." Jesus answered and said, "Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if one walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him." I'm just going to stop here for a second because this is not the only time Jesus makes this statement, and the timing seems very strange. Mm-hmm. They're going to stone you if you go back to Judea. We can't do that. Are you seriously saying that we should go there again? And then immediately he goes, "Look, there's 12 hours in the day." It's like, what does that have to do?
What?
What does that have to do with you being stoned?
We know that.
That's not going to calm the Jews down.
Yeah.
But there's this idea of light. There's 12 hours of light. And so if you move to John 12:35, and this is the beautiful thing about John too, we'll see it in chapter 11 as well. There's repeated phrases and themes that keep coming up. Mm-hmm. So in John 12:35, Jesus, after they're questioning him about everything concerning him, who is the Son of Man? John 12:35, Jesus said to them, "A little while longer, the light is with you. Walk while you have the light, lest darkness overtake you. He who walks in darkness does not know where he's going. While you have the light, believe in the light, that you may become sons of light." These things Jesus spoke and departed, and it was hidden from them. So he keeps mentioning this idea that the light is with you now, and when you walk in and with the light, you will not stumble. Now that's starting to make a lot of sense. We're about to go see something that you boys are not ready to witness or to fully take in. All of it in its entirety. Remember, the light is here, and you're coming with me so you won't stumble. That's not, let's hide here and save our lives. That is, I'm going to give you a spiritual truth that will guide your whole life.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point, the impact that this is going to have. And that's really a favorite theme of John. You go to 1 John, and he talks a lot about light and darkness.
Yeah,
so this is one of his favorite motifs applying to Jesus and who he is and what he reveals. So here they are heading down to Bethany in order to, again, show the glory of God. And I think that ties in with this idea of Jesus, there are 12 hours, let's work while we have the light, lest darkness fall on us. Well, the purpose here, we're going to go down so you can see the glory of God, to even establish more your faith in what's going on. And once I'm gone and you're involved in the ministry, building the church, you're going to remember this.
Yeah. And that's going to be when you need it the most.
Yeah.
So in verse 11, he says, "These things he said to them." And after that, so after he talks about, "I am the light, if you walk in the night, you stumble." After he told them that, he said, "Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up." This is 2 days after he was told that he was sick. Verse 12, the disciples said, "Lord, if he sleeps, he'll get well." So they clearly don't know what Jesus is saying. Verse 13, however, Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought that he was speaking about taking rest and sleep. Then Jesus said to them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. And I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him." Then Thomas, who is called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him. So Jesus has told them, look, he tried to tell them Lazarus is asleep, and that is a used word. That's a word that's used frequently in Scripture for death or the passing from this life. And they go, oh, well, then he's resting and he'll get better. Jesus, all right, let's start over. Lazarus is completely dead. And then he says, I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe.
Yep.
He could have healed the sickness, and apparently that would not have been enough to the extent.
Seen enough of that.
Right,
Yeah.
to the extent that they now need to get to in their belief. Look at John saying, so that you might believe in me.
Yep, and that's tying it all the way back. That statement Jesus makes, there are 12 hours in the day. It's all, sometimes you read John, and we've discussed this. Jesus seems to make statements that are non sequitur. I mean, they're not following what's being discussed, or the answers he gives just what where did you get that? They just don't seem to apply. But if you read on in the context, you see Jesus developing that point that he makes, or John explaining it. It's so interesting, Jesus going through this sequence. Like he says, our friend Lazarus is asleep, we're going to go and wake him up. Unfortunately, a lot of people look at that and they go, see, when you're dead, you're unconscious. It's like sleep, soul sleep kind of thing. There are several major denominations, what have you, religions that teach that idea. That is not the point, because you look in other scriptures and you know that the dead are conscious. They know what's going on. The soul sleeping, i.e. dead, I believe is just to illustrate the temporary nature of death. Whether you're a believer or not, the physical death in this world is temporary, because we're all going to rise at the last day and face the judge, Jesus Christ.
That's right.
So, but they don't get it. If he's asleep, he's going to wake up. It's what's the worry? Why are we concerned about this? So Jesus clearly explains he's dead.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go down there so that this event can establish your faith even deeper, like we've pointed out, and that everybody can see the glory of God and who I really am.
Yeah.
And the power I have.
Yeah, and we don't want to miss Thomas either, where he shines in his courage here, because this statement in verse 16 is tied to what the disciples asked in verse 8 when they said that the Jews are seeking to stone you to death. Are you going to go there again? So they're worried that he's going to be killed. Verse 16, Thomas, who is called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. That's a great testimony of faith and confidence in Jesus.
Yeah.
If he's going to die, we're going to do this together, gentlemen. And so that is fantastic. Verse 17 now, Jesus is approaching Bethany, where Lazarus has been buried. And we just think about the emotional stirring and still the confusion of the disciples with Jesus, but he knows all things. He knows what he's about to step into, and he's had time to kind of prepare himself for these interactions and conversations. So verse 17, Jesus came. He found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. So we have a lot of people who've gathered. Again, speaks to the fame of this family and how they're well off, or the means that they may have. That there's just a lot of people have gathered to comfort these two sisters. And it says, then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him, but Mary was sitting in the house. Now Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. So apparently Mary and Martha are there. They're being comforted. Somehow Martha, either someone nods to her, or she realizes Jesus is here, or at least he's close. She takes off, and then John says Mary stayed sitting in the house. Martha runs to Jesus and says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. Martha's doing something here that we need to think about for a moment, because I think it's intimately tied to what's happening. In verse 21, when she says, if you had been here, my brother had not have died. Now, she's right, but she's making the argument of secondary causes. That is, Lord, if you would have been here, my brother would not have died. So at this moment in her fragile state of grief and mourning, she assumes Jesus' physical presence was necessary in order to keep Lazarus from dying. And again, she's seen this before. She knows he heals the sick, and she's not wrong about that. But Jesus offers her gentle correction, really for her theory or misplaced faith in secondary causes. And he corrects her by revealing that he is not limited to means. This is the key to it all, Kurt. Jesus is life.
Yes, yes.
He is, she's alive because he's there. Everything that's alive exists because of who he is. All things are made through him, for him, and by him. Nothing was made that was not made without him. John begins his gospel that way. Colossians 3, verses 16 through 18 tells us the same thing. All things were made through, for, and by Jesus Christ. And so she says, if you just could have been here, he is so much greater than that. She's not wrong, but
She's limited.
I like the argument of the secondary causes that you could have stopped this. And the reality is he could have stopped it from where he was.
Oh, yeah.
He could have stopped it. The second Lazarus first coughed, he could have shut the whole thing down by his will from 1,000 miles away. So again, if we know that's true, then it helps us to see this greater picture that is unfolding, because God has allowed this to all come to pass so that he would be glorified through his son. That is powerful.
Yeah. And it's interesting what he says, like you pointed out, he corrected her, your brother will rise again. Well, she says, well, I know he'll rise in the last day. That obviously. Well, what she's doing there is reflecting an accurate belief among the Jews. There will be a general resurrection. The prophets, Isaiah in Isaiah 28, Daniel in Daniel 12, both specify that there will be a day when all will come out of the grave, that there is a general resurrection. So she accepts that. But as you pointed out, Jesus is going beyond that. This is more than a general resurrection. So here's an indication. She's not locked into that there is a specific resurrection that Jesus could perform with Lazarus. I don't think she's looking toward that because she points out, as you said, if he'd been here, he wouldn't have died. Now that he's dead, Jesus says, well, don't worry, he's not going to stay dead. He'll rise again. Well, I know.
Yeah.
There is a general resurrection at the last day. And so now Jesus is going to focus in on that. Again, she's not wrong, but she's limited. And so Jesus is going to expand that and show really what his power is.
So based on what you just said, it tells me that verse 22, when she says, even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you, based on what you just said, because of her belief in the general resurrection, she's not asking him to raise, saying, I know that whatever you ask God, God will give you. She's not asking him to raise Lazarus from the dead right there in the moment. What is she saying?
Well, this has been a source of discussion. And again, here's a statement being made, and it doesn't seem like Jesus is following it. But I believe she's just stating her faith in Jesus, that we've seen you do so many things. You can do whatever you want to do. You've come to exalt the will of the Father and to fulfill that will. Whatever his will is, he'll give it to you. So she's acknowledging the power of Jesus in a general sense, just like she acknowledges the general resurrection. So I don't think she's saying, God will give you whatever you ask. If you ask Lazarus to rise up right now, God will give that to you, because she doesn't see that yet.
No.
So I think she's just stating, I know you can do anything you want to do. You've shown what you can do. So it's at that point that Jesus points out that, okay, well, let's go and see. Let's go to the tomb. There's more here than just the general resurrection. I am the resurrection. So you don't put your faith in an event, if some future event that, there's going to be a general resurrection. The resurrection stands in a person, not in a future event.
Right, exactly.
And Jesus is saying, I am that person. I'm the resurrection. Yeah, it's going to happen at the last day, but because of me and what you're going to see right here.
Yes. And so the grand statement that we're studying today, the whole point of this, the title, I am the resurrection and the life, comes from Martha saying to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. This is a grieving sister whose brother has been dead for 4 days, and she believes that all will be raised in the last day, as you pointed out so well. And so she's saying, I know that that's true. Then Jesus said to her, now we look at Jesus, look right at her and say, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is come into the world. Now, again, as hard as this would be, having just lost her brother and partially blaming Jesus for not being there, they sent to him and he didn't come. At least he didn't make it in time. She knows he's the Christ, the Son of the living God, and that he knows all things and that he can do whatever, or God will do whatever he asks the Lord to do. She knows all of that is true, and yet her brother is still dead, lying in a grave. And so I think this tremendous statement of faith, we should not just pass over it. She is showing amazing faith here. She still doesn't get it all. But again, the main point, one of the main points for us as we look at something like this is that we will look at things that Jesus said, Kurt. I think especially Matthew 5, Matthew 6, Matthew 7, Sermon on the Mount. We look at things Jesus says. They are from him. They're eternally true. And we like a whole bunch of them. But there's a few that I'm just not very good at. I don't want to do that. I don't think you can help me. You say you won't leave me. I think you might. All of those things haunt us when he says it. And so when we watch this unfold with Martha, we're like, hey, why don't you get it? Wake up, Well, because we don't get it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I find this to be true in studies when we're looking at, what does the Bible say about this subject? And let's say that an individual is really struggling with it. Let's say it's me, and I'm really struggling with it. And someone tells me, well, let's look back here in Matthew, what Jesus said. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, Jesus is never wrong. Then we look at it and I go, hey, it could be wrong here because it really gets in the way of what I think already or what I want to do. And then people, they go as far as sometimes, and please don't ever do this in your studies, some people will dismiss the teachings of Jesus
Mm-hmm.
and they'll find a reason to do it. One is he lived under the Old Testament.
Yeah.
He's talking to
Yeah.
Jews, so that doesn't apply to the New
Doesn't
Testament
apply to
Christian.
us.
And I'm saying, yes, it does, because he's the King of Kings. He is our Savior. He did not change his mind. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. We have to rest fully on what he's taught. And I do think you need to find the harmony in the New Testament explanation, like further in the scriptures, if that can be found. Let all of those things complement each other, because all of it is from the Holy Spirit. But this idea of Jesus not being right over in this category really bothers me, because we're shown over and over and over again that human beings don't get it when God talks to them.
Yeah, because it's God that's talking.
Exactly.
To us. He has different modes of teaching us in ways that will emphasize what he wants us to learn. A lot of people say, well, if he'd write a message in the sky and explain it all, I'd believe him then. Well, no, you wouldn't.
He wrote it on a sheet of
And
paper.
he's written things, and he's exposed things in ways sometimes not as clearly as we would like. But I think it's because he wants us to pursue that and find it out ourselves.
Yeah.
And he
I
uses it to divide truth seekers from those who aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when Jesus taught in parables, we're told that he did that so that people who didn't have eyes to see wouldn't be able to see. Some people look at that and will see, Lord, God is keeping them from being able to see the truth. No, he's separating those seeking from those who aren't, because what happens? Most of the people, when Jesus utters a parable, walk away and they go, okay, that was a nice story, but I don't get it.
Right.
I know what it means to sow seed. I know what a vineyard is and all this other stuff. It's when the disciples or, people who want to learn come to Jesus and say, explain that for us. What did you mean by that? He doesn't say, well, you should get it.
Yeah.
It's obvious. No, he explains it to them.
He knows we
goes
need
point
help.
by point.
Mhm.
The kingdom is this. The seed is this. Here are these different soils.
Yep.
And so those who are seeking to find the answer, he gives the answer to.
Yeah.
But here, sometimes Jesus not giving a clear answer that we think he ought to give, because he's wanting us to think about what he's saying
Right.
and make the application.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned here, Jesus is emphasizing the resurrection power is in a person, because look how much he emphasizes from verse 25, the need to believe in that one.
Mm-hmm.
We need to believe in the resurrection and the life, the one who has that, one who is that. And so this climactic miracle that Jesus is performing is to ultimately proclaim he's the Christ, that he has power over everything, even life and death.
Yeah.
And so those who reject this, who do not believe that he is the resurrection and the life, and don't believe ultimately in Jesus' own resurrection, they're just driving the final nail into their coffin.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate demonstration of who Jesus is. You reject this, there's nothing else I can do for you.
Yeah.
That
He's
you
showing
have rejected the life,
Mm.
and therefore you will not have the life.
He's plainly showing it to us. It's interesting that after she says, you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is come into the world, says then after she said these things, she went her way. So she goes and secretly calls Mary, and she says, the teacher has come and is calling for you. So there's several verses that we won't read today, but just deal with Mary getting to where Jesus is. And what I do want to read for us is that in 32, it says, then when Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Something I want to ask all of us as we think about this today is that how did the two sisters say the same exact words to Jesus? We see Martha she's a busybody. She has a list. She knows what she wants to have done. She knows how she's going to get it done. And so she comes to him and says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Now, however she said that is how she said it. I know she's sad too, but with Mary, she's a totally different person, though she is Martha's sister. And she says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would have not have died. And so I'm not telling you the way that they're saying this. I just want us to think about that. One important part about Mary is that she fell at the feet of Jesus. And Kurt and I talked just a few minutes ago. This is the third time that we have seen Mary at the feet of Jesus. And really, she's always at his feet. She's at his feet here mourning. She was at his feet, or will be at his feet in chapter 12, wiping his feet with the alabaster oil out of the alabaster flask, that fine oil. And the third time that she's at his feet is when she's listening to him teach, and Martha is busy serving. Mary loves to be at the feet of Jesus. And I think what's important here for us to think about, all of us in this world, is that if you lose a loved one, if you're deeply grieved and you're hurting, and you need the Lord and you wish he was there when something could have been done earlier, and all those thoughts go through our mind, and what role did I play in my loved one's death? Could I have done more? All of that plagues us so much that Jesus is calling for us, and we got to come to him, and we need to speak to him as these two women do. And both of them approach him, it seems, differently. Martha needs conversation. She needs to talk about resurrection and life, and nothing is said to Mary. The only thing he asks is to the people who are weeping with Mary. He says to them, where have you laid him? And they said to him, Lord, come and see. Then Jesus wept. Now that's with Mary and all the Jews who are crying. And so he doesn't respond to her verbally. It must have been a powerful connection between the two when she says, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And just looks at her and then sees the grief in her heart and begins to cry with her. It's such a powerful moment.
Yeah. And I think Jesus weeping there's been a lot of speculation about that. I think he's weeping at the suffering he sees that sin and death causes in this world.
Yeah, me too.
Even though he knows what he's going to do, he's looking at them right now, and he's sharing their grief. Jesus is God in the flesh. He's human, and he is not untouched by the mourning and the grief and the sadness that he sees. Now, probably a lot of these people, they're professional wailers and mourners, which was typical at a Jewish funeral. But he's now in touch with Martha and Mary, and they're laying out their grief. This wouldn't happen if you'd been here, Lord. You could have saved all this. And he's touched by their suffering. But he's going to do something about it. And so, like you said, his answer to Mary is, okay, everybody, where's the tomb? Let's go over there.
That's right.
And he's going to answer their question, because some of them are saying, well, if he loved him so much, couldn't healed his sickness? Couldn't he do something about this? He's not who he says he is. If he could heal the blind, couldn't he have done something about this? Well, so there's still a debate going on about Jesus, and he's going to answer that with what he says. And he tells them, roll away the stone. And there's an objection about that. And who does it come from?
Oh, yeah, Martha.
Yeah, Martha objects, saying, well, Lord, if we roll away the stone, that's going to stink. He's been dead for 4 days. Now, this is the second time the 4 days has been mentioned. Back before they left, it is said he's been dead for 4 days. And now Martha points it out, 4 days. And I think there's significance here because according to the rabbis' teaching, whether it's true or not, they taught, and there's no scriptural support for this, but it was the rabbis' teaching that when someone died, their spirit left the body but hovered in that vicinity that was like over the body or nearby, whatever, for 3 days. Then on the fourth, it left. So on the fourth, you're really dead.
Right.
The spirit isn't even around anymore. Plus, we talked about this beforehand, and you pointed out you'd done some studies of what a body's condition is after 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
And you've pretty much decomposed to the point where the body's turning into jello.
Yeah.
It is rotting.
You're not coming back.
And that's what she's indicating. The tomb's going to stink because he's rotting. It's been 4 days. Well, Jesus is going to show none of that matters.
I know.
The body can be rotting. The spirit can be long gone in the viewing of the rabbis and the common perception. That is no hindrance to the resurrection and the life. Jesus has the power, and he's now going to display it.
That's right. And I will read those final verses for the conclusion. Do you have any other thoughts about anything else in this resurrection and the life and who Jesus is and some of the conversations that have taken place?
Well, one thing Jesus points out, verse 40, he reminds everyone after Martha says, well, we shouldn't open the tomb. It's bad. He says, did I not say to you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? What Jesus is saying here, resurrection power, is perhaps the ultimate demonstration of the power of God, the glory of God. As we've emphasized, the resurrection is not an event, a one-time thing. It is a person. Our resurrection stands in Jesus, who is the resurrection and the life. And his own resurrection is the pattern for us that will be raised from the dead if we are found in him. As he says, if you believe. In Revelation 1:8, Jesus told John in that vision, I have the keys of Hades and death.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who opens the door. I've got the keys. I can open that door. I can close it. Jesus has absolute authority over death. And so just as Jesus emptied the grave of Lazarus with a command, so he'll empty ours. He'll empty your grave if you have faith in him.
Yeah. To eternal life.
Yes.
What a great thing.
He'll save us from the first death, physical death. Like Jesus said, those who believe in me will live, even if he dies. Okay. Chances are for us, if Jesus doesn't return, there is a fate. We're going to die. But we can live. So this is the first death. Jesus said it's only those who do not serve him, who do not live in him, in Revelation chapter 21. Those who are in sin are going to experience the second death. That death is the one that saints, those in Christ, do not have to experience.
Yes, sir.
So everyone experiences the first death unless Jesus comes again. But not everyone will have to have the second death. Just as the first death is, as James points out, the separation of the spirit from the body, the second death is the separation of the spirit from the resurrection and the life, from God.
Depart.
That's the second death.
Yeah.
You will not be with God in eternity. You will be eternally separated from him, eternal death in that sense, even though the wicked will be conscious too. They're just going to be there completely separated from God in darkness, no light, no fellowship with God, no fellowship with anyone else. They're alone in eternity.
Yeah, and so that is an obvious truth based on what the scriptures reveal, but it's not bad news. It's actually the good news
Right.
that there is a way. So this
Yes.
confidence and this faith in Jesus turns into something in our lives. It molds us and makes us who he wants us to be because we're trying to be more and more like his son. And so it's up to everybody who decides. You can have your life be a beautiful picture of faith and confidence and a heart and a soul that is devoted to God, that he will restore or transform it from this lowly body into a glorious body when Christ returns. Those promises are there for us. And so if it scares you, then maybe it should, But if you've moved past that and you've stepped into this faith in Christ and faithfully obeying him in all that is said in the New Testament, as far as our responsibilities toward him and toward one another, then there's blessed assurance for us, and there's peace there, and just so many wonderful things. So I love the fact that God says it's up to you. I'm not going to force you to decide the obvious choice of life, but you really should pick this with the time you have and with the heart that I've given to you. So that's beautiful. And I do appreciate you saying that verse 40, where he says, "Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God?" That's how this chapter started. Remember, I was talking about looking for those repeated phrases? Chapter 11 and verse 4. When Jesus heard that Lazarus was sick, the one he loves, he said, "This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it." And then same phrase is repeated in verse 40. So that is fantastic. Bible trivia for each other. You have a trivia question for me, I believe, to get us going.
I certainly do. And so here's one for our listeners also to participate in. The first question is, in Acts 16, we find a girl following Paul and his companions around.
Trivia, sweet trivia.
What kind of spirit did that girl have as she followed Paul around? What is it described as? She had a spirit of...
Divination.
Yes, it is. That's right. Acts 16:16.
Oh, man, you can tell by the way I said it, I wasn't sure. Foretelling, she had some ability that they made money from. So, okay,
Yep.
The spirit of divination is what that passage says. Both of my questions are based on some resurrection idea in the scriptures.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought we'd just stick with
Yeah, we're talking about
what we're
that.
doing here. Paul told the Corinthians that Jesus rose on the third day, according to the what?
Scriptures.
Wow.
He was buried according to the scriptures and rose according to the
On the
scriptures.
third day, according to the
Actually,
scriptures.
no, he died according to the
Yeah.
scriptures, was buried, and rose again according to the scriptures.
Right.
That's right.
1 Corinthians 15:4. Very good, brother.
Very good. Yes. Now, mine doesn't have to do with the resurrection. It's going back to the Old Testament, but it's not a bad one. Which Old Testament book tells us about a man named Haman who tried to eradicate the Jews?
Eradicate. That's a big word.
Get rid of them. Wipe them out.
Haman.
That's the man. The book of
Esther.
Yes, that's right.
The enemy of the Jews,
Yes,
he's called.
Esther shows us what Haman plotted and how God used Esther to deliver the Jews.
Yes,
Amazing story.
it is. Irony is thick in the book of Esther.
Mm-hmm.
Final question that I know you'll get correct. I'm so confident I should get bonus
Oh,
points
boy.
for asking this question.
Oh my! He's setting me up for doom,
No,
folks.
I am so sure.
Get ready for the fall here.
You almost gave me your car a couple of weeks ago. If you don't get this right, I'll give you my truck.
If I don't get it
Wait
right,
a second. You can't do that.
I'm sorry,
No, no.
Danny. I don't know the answer to this.
Then you're a liar, and liars don't go to heaven.
Whoa, we're getting heavy here.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
what
got
is it?
serious.
What do we have?
I don't want to lose my truck. That's the bottom line.
Okay.
Okay, name two people who were raised from the dead in the Old Testament.
Okay. One is the widow that Elijah stayed with. Her son dies, and so he goes and resurrects that son.
Yep.
There's also the very interesting one of a dead body who's been taken for burial, but the party sees raiders approaching, so they throw him into Elijah's tomb. And when he touches Elijah's bones, he gets up. He rises from the dead
That's
right
right.
then and there.
Yep.
A third one is the raising of the Shunammite son by Elisha.
I knew that you
So-
knew them. So that's very good. Elijah raised the widow's son at Zarephath. 1 Kings 17 is where that's found. Elisha raised the Shunammite son in the same way by stretching his body over the boy. 2 Kings 4, verses 18 through 37. And the man revived, brought back from the dead by touching the bones of Elisha. 2 Kings 13, verses 20 through 21.
So since I got 3 and you only wanted 2, can I still get your truck? Is that a bonus?
No. It's only if you got it wrong.
Folks, look how hard I tried.
Well, you got your gold star, just no truck.
Oh, well, that's good enough. Okay.
So let me read John 11, picking up in verse 38, because Jesus has now made it to the tomb with Mary, Martha, and all the Jews who were there weeping. Jesus, again groaning in himself, came to the tomb, and it was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, "Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God?" Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was lying, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me. But because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me." Now, when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And he who had died came out bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Loose him and let him go." What we need to remember today is that what Jesus will do on this day for Lazarus does not hinge on Martha's faith. Jesus told us twice in John chapter 11, "The glory of God shall be revealed to all, so that the Son of Man may be glorified through it."